Achilles is reconciled with Agamemnon, puts on the armor which Vulcan had made him, and goes out to fight. Now, when Dawn in robe of saffron was hasting from the streams of Oceanus to bring light to mortals and immortals, Thetis reached the ships with the armor that the god had given her. She found her son fallen about the body of Patroclus and weeping bitterly. Many also of his followers were weeping round him. But when the goddess came among them, she clasped his hand in her own, saying, "My son! Grieve as we may, we must let this man lie, for it is by heaven's will that he has fallen. Now, therefore, accept from Vulcan this rich and goodly armor, which no man has ever yet borne upon his shoulders." As she spoke, she set the armor before Achilles, and it rang out bravely as she did so. The Myrmidons were struck with awe, and none dared look full at it, for they were afraid. But Achilles was roused to still greater fury, and his eyes gleamed with a fierce light, for he was glad when he handled the splendid present which the god had made him. Then, as soon as he had satisfied himself with looking at it, he said to his mother, "Mother, the god has given me armor, meet handiwork for an immortal, and such as no one living could have fashioned. I will now arm, but I much fear that flies will settle upon the son of Menoetius and breed worms about his wounds, so that his body, now he is dead, will be disfigured, and the flesh will rot." Silver-footed Thetis answered, "My son, be not disquieted about this matter. I will find means to protect him from the swarms of noisome flies that prey on the bodies of men who have been killed in battle. He may lie for a whole year, and his flesh shall still be as sound as ever, or even sounder. Call, therefore, the Achaean heroes in assembly, unsay your anger against Agamemnon, arm at once, and fight with might and main." As she spoke, she put strength and courage into his heart, and she then dropped ambrosia and red nectar into the wounds of Patroclus, that his body might suffer no change. Then Achilles went out upon the seashore, and with a loud cry called on the Achaean heroes. On this even those who as yet had stayed always of the ships, the pilots and helmsmen, and even the stewards who were about the ships and served out rations, all came to the place of assembly, because Achilles had shown himself after having held aloof so long from fighting. 2 sons of Mars, Ulysses and the son of Tydeus, came limping. For their wounds still pained them, nevertheless they came, and took their seats in the front row of the assembly. Last of all came Agamemnon, king of men, he too wounded, for Coon, son of Antenor, had struck him with a spear in battle. When the Achaeans were got together, Achilles rose and said, "Son of Atreus, surely it would have been better alike for both you and me when we two were in such high anger about Briseis. Surely it would have been better had Diana's arrow slain her at the ships on the day when I took her after having sacked Lyrnessus. For so, many an Achaean the less would have bitten dust before the foe in the days of my anger. It has been well for Hector and the Trojans, but the Achaeans will long indeed remember our quarrel. Now, however, let it be, for it is over. If we have been angry, necessity has schooled our anger. I put it from me. I dare not nurse it forever. Therefore, bid the Achaeans arm forthwith, that I may go out against the Trojans, and learn whether they will be in a mind to sleep by the ships or no. Glad, I ween, will he be to rest his knees who may fly my spear when I wield it." Thus did he speak, and the Achaeans rejoiced in that he had put away his anger. Then Agamemnon spoke, rising in his place and not going into the middle of the assembly. "Danaan heroes," said he, "servants of Mars, it is well to listen when a man stands up to speak, and it is not seemly to interrupt him, or it will go hard even with a practised speaker, who can either hear or speak in an uproar. Even the finest orator will be disconcerted by it. I will expound to the son of Peleus, and do you other Achaeans heed me and mark me well. Often have the Achaeans spoken to me of this matter and upbraided me, but it was not I that did it, Jove, and fate, and Erinis that walks in darkness struck me mad when we were assembled on the day that I took from Achilles the meed that had been awarded to him. What could I do? All things are in the hand of heaven, and Folly, eldest of Jove's daughters, shuts men's eyes to their destruction. She walks delicately, not on the solid earth, but hovers over the heads of men to make them stumble or to ensnare them. Time was when she fooled Jove himself, who they say is greatest, whether of gods or men, for Juno, woman though she was, beguiled him on the day when Alcmena was to bring forth mighty Hercules in the fair city of Thebes. He told it out among the gods, saying, "Hear me, all gods and goddesses, that I may speak even as I am minded. This day shall an Ilithuia, helper of women who are in labour, bring a man-child into the world who shall be lord over all that dwell about him, who are of my blood and lineage." Then said Juno, "All crafty and full of guile, you will play false and will not hold to your word. Swear me, O Olympian, swear me a great oath, that he who shall this day fall between the feet of a woman shall be lord over all that dwell about him, who are of your blood and lineage." Thus she spoke, and Jove suspected her not, but swore the great oath, to his much ruing thereafter. For Juno darted down from the high summit of Olympus, and went in haste to Achaean Argos, where she knew that the noble wife of Sthenelus, son of Perseus, then was. She being with child, and in her 7th month, Juno brought the child to birth, though there was a month still wanting, but she stayed the offspring of Alcmena, and kept back the Ilithuiae. Then she went to tell Jove, the son of Saturn, and said, "Father Jove, lord of the lightning, I have a word for your ear. There is a fine child born this day, Eurystheus, son to Sthenelus, the son of Perseus. He is of your lineage. It is well, therefore, that he should reign over the Argives." On this Jove was stung to the very quick, and in his rage he caught Folly by the hair, and swore a great oath that never should she again invade starry heaven and Olympus, for she was the bane of all. Then he whirled her round with a twist of his hand, and flung her down from heaven, so that she fell onto the fields of mortal men. And he was ever angry with her when he saw his son groaning under the cruel labours that Eurystheus laid upon him. Even so did I grieve when mighty Hector was killing the Argives at their ships, and all the time I kept thinking of Folly, who had so baned me. I was blind, and Jove robbed me of my reason. I will now make atonement, and will add much treasure by way of amends. Go, therefore, into battle, you and your people with you. I will give you all that Ulysses offered you yesterday in your tents, or if it so please you, wait, though you would fain fight at once, and my squires shall bring the gifts from my ship, that you may see whether what I give you is enough." And Achilles answered, "Son of Atreus, king of men, Agamemnon, you can give such gifts as you think proper, or you can withhold them. It is in your own hands. Let us now set battle in array. It is not well to tarry talking about trifles, for there is a deed which is as yet to do." Achilles shall again be seen fighting among the foremost, and laying low the ranks of the Trojans. Bear this in mind, each one of you, when he is fighting." Then Ulysses said, "Achilles, godlike and brave, send not the Achaeans thus against Ilius to fight the Trojans fasting, for the battle will be no brief one when it is once begun, and heaven has filled both sides with fury. Bid them first take food, both bread and wine, by the ships, for in this there is strength and stay. No man can do battle the livelong day to the going down of the sun if he is without food. However much he may want to fight, his strength will fail him before he knows it. Hunger and thirst will find him out, and his limbs will grow weary under him. But a man can fight all day if he is full fed with meat and wine. His heart beats high, and his strength will stay till he has routed all his foes. Therefore, send the people away, and bid them prepare their meal. King Agamemnon will bring out the gifts in presence of the assembly, that all may see them, and you may be satisfied. Moreover, let him swear an oath before the Argives that he has never gone up into the couch of Briseis, nor been with her after the manner of men and women. And do you, too, show yourself of a gracious mind. Let Agamemnon entertain you in his tents with a feast of reconciliation, that so you may have had your dues in full. As for you, son of Atreus, treat people more righteously in future. It is no disgrace even to a king that he should make amends if he was wrong in the first instance. And King Agamemnon answered, Son of Laertes, your words please me well, for throughout you have spoken wisely. I will swear as you would have me do. I do so of my own free will. Neither shall I take the name of heaven in vain. Let, then, Achilles wait, though he would fain fight at once, and do you others wait also, till the gifts come from my tent, and we ratify the oath with sacrifice. Thus, then, do I charge you, take some noble young Achaeans with you, and bring from my tents the gifts that I promised yesterday to Achilles, and bring the women also. Furthermore, let Talthybius find me a boar from those that are with the host, and make it ready for sacrifice to Jove and to the sun. Then said Achilles, Son of Atreus, king of men, Agamemnon, see to these matters at some other season, when there is breathing time, and when I am calmer. Would you have men eat, while the bodies of those whom Hector, son of Priam, slew, are still lying mangled upon the plain? Let the sons of the Achaeans, say I, fight fasting and without food, till we have avenged them. Afterwards, at the going down of the sun, let them eat their fill. As for me, Patroclus is lying dead in my tent, all hacked and hewn, with his feet to the door, and his comrades are mourning round him. Therefore I can take thought of nothing save only slaughter and blood, and the rattle in the throat of the dying. Ulysses answered, Achilles, son of Peleus, mightiest of all the Achaeans, in battle you are better than I, and that more than a little. But in counsel I am much before you, for I am older and of greater knowledge. Therefore be patient under my words. Fighting is a thing of which men soon surfeit, and when Jove, who is war's steward, weighs the upshot, it may well prove that the straw which our sickles have reaped is far heavier than the grain. It may not be that the Achaeans should mourn the dead with their bellies. Day by day men fall thick and threefold continually. When should we have respite from our sorrow? Let us mourn our dead for a day, and bury them out of sight and mind. But let those of us who are left eat and drink, that we may arm and fight our foes more fiercely. In that hour let no man hold back, waiting for a second summons. Such summons shall bode ill for him who is found lagging behind at our ships. Let us rather sally as one man, and loose the fury of war upon the Trojans. When he had thus spoken, he took with him the sons of Nestor, with Meges son of Phyleus, Thoas, Meriones, Lycomedes son of Creontes, and Melanippus, and went to the tent of Agamemnon son of Atreus. The word was not sooner said than the deed was done. They brought out the 7 tripods which Agamemnon had promised, with the 20 metal cauldrons and the 12 horses. They also brought the women skilled in useful arts, 7 in number, with Briseis, which made 8. Ulysses weighed out the 10 talents of gold, and then led the way back. while the young Achaeans brought the rest of the gifts and laid them in the middle of the assembly. Agamemnon then rose, and Talthybius, whose voice was like that of a god, came to him with the boar. The son of Atreus drew the knife which he wore by the scabbard of his mighty sword, and began by cutting off some bristles from the boar, lifting up his hands in prayer as he did so. The other Achaeans sat where they were all silent and orderly to hear the king, and Agamemnon looked into the vault of heaven and prayed, saying, "I call Jove, the first and mightiest of all gods, to witness. I call also earth and sun, and the Erinyes who dwell below, and take vengeance on him who shall swear falsely that I have laid no hand upon the girl Briseis, neither to take her to my bed nor otherwise, but that she has remained in my tents inviolate. If I swear falsely, may heaven visit me with all the penalties which it metes out to those who perjure themselves." He cut the boar's throat as he spoke, whereon Talthybius whirled it round his head and flung it into the wide sea to feed the fishes. Then Achilles also rose and said to the Argives, "Father Jove, of a truth you blind men's eyes and baned them. The son of Atreus had not else stirred me to so fierce an anger, nor so stubbornly taken Briseis from me against my will. Surely Jove must have counselled the destruction of many an Argive. Go now, and take your food that we may begin fighting." On this he broke up the assembly, and every man went back to his own ship. The Myrmidons attended to the presents, and took them away to the ship of Achilles. They placed them in his tents, while the stablemen drove the horses in among the others. Briseis, fair as Venus, when she saw the mangled body of Patroclus, flung herself upon it and cried aloud, tearing her breast, her neck, and her lovely face with both her hands. Beautiful as a goddess, she wept and said, "Patroclus, dearest friend, when I went hence, I left you living. I return, O prince, to find you dead. Thus do fresh sorrows multiply upon me, one after the other. I saw him to whom my father and mother married me cut down before our city, and my 3 own dear brothers perished with him on the self-same day. But you, Patroclus, even when Achilles slew my husband and sacked the city of noble minds, told me that I was not to weep, for you said you would make Achilles marry me, and take me back with him to Phia. We should have a wedding feast among the Myrmidons. You were always kind to me, and I shall never cease to grieve for you." She wept as she spoke, and the women joined in her lament, making as though their tears were for Patroclus. But in truth each was weeping for her own sorrows. The elders of the Achaeans gathered round Achilles and prayed him to take food, but he groaned and would not do so. "I pray you," said he, "if any comrade will hear me, bid me neither eat nor drink, for I am in great heaviness, and will stay fasting even to the going down of the sun." On this he sent the other princes away, save only the 2 sons of Atreus and Ulysses, Nestor, Idomeneus, and the knight Phoenix, who stayed behind and tried to comfort him in the bitterness of his sorrow. But he would not be comforted till he should have flung himself into the jaws of battle. And he fetched sigh on sigh, thinking ever of Patroclus. Then he said, "Hapless and dearest comrade, you it was who would get a good dinner ready for me at once and without delay, when the Achaeans were hasting to fight the Trojans. Now, therefore, though I have meat and drink in my tents, yet will I fast for sorrow. Grief greater than this I could not know, not even though I were to hear of the death of my father, who is now in fear weeping for the loss of me his son, who am here fighting the Trojans in a strange land for the accursed sake of Helen. Nor yet, though I should hear that my son is no more, he who is being brought up in Syros, if indeed Neoptolemus is still living. Till now I made sure that I alone was to fall here at Troy, away from Argos, while you were to return to Phthia, bring back my son with you in your own ship, and show him all my property, my bondsmen, and the greatness of my house. For Peleus must surely be either dead, or what little life remains to him is oppressed alike with the infirmities of age and ever-present fear, lest he should hear the sad tidings of my death." He wept as he spoke, and the elders sighed in concert as each thought on what he had left at home behind him. The son of Saturn looked down with pity upon them, and said presently to Minerva, "My child, you have quite deserted your hero. Is he then gone so clean out of your recollection? There he sits by the ships, all desolate for the loss of his dear comrade, and though the others are gone to their dinner, he will neither eat nor drink. Go then and drop nectar and ambrosia into his breast, that he may know no hunger." With these words he urged Minerva, who was already of the same mind. She darted down from heaven into the air like some falcon sailing on his broad wings and screaming. Meanwhile, the Achaeans were arming throughout the host, and when Minerva had dropped nectar and ambrosia into Achilles, so that no cruel hunger should cause his limbs to fail him, she went back to the house of her mighty father. Thick as the chill snowflakes shed from the hand of Jove and borne on the keen blasts of the north wind, even so thick did the gleaming helmets, the bossed shields, the strongly plated breastplates, and the ashen spears stream from the ships. The sheen pierced the sky. The whole land was radiant with their flashing armor, and the sound of the tramp of their treading rose from under their feet. In the midst of them all, Achilles put on his armor. He gnashed his teeth. His eyes gleamed like fire, for his grief was greater than he could bear. Thus, then, full of fury against the Trojans, did he don the gift of the god, the armor that Vulcan had made him. First he put on the goodly greaves fitted with ankle clasps, and next he did on the breastplate about his chest. He slung the silver-studded sword of bronze about his shoulders, and then took up the shield so great and strong that shone afar with a splendor as of the moon, as the light seen by sailors from out at sea, when men have lit a fire in their homestead high up among the mountains, but the sailors are carried out to sea by wind and storm, far from the haven where they would be. Even so did the gleam of Achilles' wondrous shield strike up into the heavens. He lifted the redoubtable helmet and set it upon his head, from whence it shone like a star, and the golden plumes which Vulcan had set thick about the ridge of the helmet waved all around it. Then Achilles made trial of himself in his armor to see whether it fitted him, so that his limbs could play freely under it, and it seemed to buoy him up as though it had been wings. He also drew his father's spear out of the spear stand, a spear so great and heavy and strong that none of the Achaeans, save only Achilles, had strength to wield it. This was the spear of Pelian ash from the topmost ridges of Mount Pelion, which Chiron had once given to Peleus, fraught with the death of heroes. Automedon and Alcimus busied themselves with the harnessing of his horses. They made the bands fast about them, and put the bit in their mouths, drawing the reins back towards the chariot. Automedon, whip in hand, sprang up behind the horses, and after him Achilles mounted in full armor, resplendent as the sun-god Hyperion. Then with a loud voice he chided with his father's horses, saying, "Xanthus and Bellius, famed offspring of Podage, this time when we have done fighting, be sure and bring your driver safely back to the host of the Achaeans, and do not leave him dead on the plain as you did Patroclus." Then fleet Xanthus answered under the yoke, for white-armed Juno had endowed him with human speech, and he bowed his head till his mane touched the ground as it hung down from under the yoke-band. "Dread Achilles," said he, "we will indeed save you now, but the day of your death is near, and the blame will not be ours, for it will be heaven and stern fate that will destroy you. Neither was it through any sloth or slackness on our part that the Trojans stripped Patroclus of his armor, It was the mighty god whom lovely Leto bore that slew him as he fought among the foremost and vouchsafed a triumph to Hector. We too can fly as swiftly as Zephyrus, who they say is fleetest of all winds. Nevertheless, it is your doom to fall by the hand of a man and of a god." When he had thus said, the Erinyes stayed his speech, and Achilles answered him in great sadness, saying, "Why, O Xanthus, do you thus foretell my death? You need not do so, for I well know that I am to fall here. Far from my dear father and mother, none the more, however, shall I stay my hand till I have given the Trojans their fill of fighting." So saying, with a loud cry, he drove his horses to the front. The gods hold a council and determine to watch the fight from the hill Callicolone and the barrow of Hercules. A fight between Achilles and Aeneas is interrupted by Neptune, who saves Aeneas. Achilles kills many Trojans. Thus then did the Achaeans arm by their ships round you, O son of Peleus, who were hungering for battle, while the Trojans over against them armed upon the rise of the plain. Meanwhile Jove from the top of many-delled Olympus bade Themis gather the gods in council, whereon she went about and called them to the house of Jove. There was not a river absent except Oceanus, nor a single one of the nymphs that haunt fair groves, or springs of rivers and meadows of green grass. When they reached the house of Cloud, compelling Jove, they took their seats in the arcades of polished marble, which Vulcan with his consummate skill had made for Father Jove. In such wise, therefore, did they gather in the house of Jove. Neptune also, lord of the earthquake, obeyed the call of the goddess, and came up out of the sea to join them. There, sitting in the midst of them, he asked what Jove's purpose might be. "Why," said he, "wielder of the lightning, have you called the gods in council? Are you considering some matter that concerns the Trojans and Achaeans? For the blaze of battle is on the point of being kindled between them." And Jove answered, "You know my purpose, shaker of earth, and wherefore I have called you hither. I take thought for them even in their destruction. For my own part, I shall stay here seated on Messene W, Olympus, and look on in peace. But do you others go about among Trojans and Achaeans, and help either side as you may be severally disposed. If Achilles fights the Trojans without hindrance, they will make no stand against him. They have ever trembled at the sight of him, and now that he is roused to such fury about his comrade, he will override fate itself and storm their city." Thus spoke Jove, and gave the word for war, whereon the gods took their several sides and went into battle. Juno, Pallas Minerva, Earth encircling Neptune, Mercury bringer of good luck, and excellent in all cunning. All these joined the host that came from the ships. With them also came Vulcan in all his glory, limping, but yet with his thin legs plying lustily under him. Mars of gleaming helmet joined the Trojans, and with him Apollo of locks unshorn, and the archer goddess Diana, Leto, Xanthus, and laughter-loving Venus. So long as the gods held themselves aloof from mortal warriors, the Achaeans were triumphant, for Achilles, who had long refused to fight, was now with them. There was not a Trojan but his limbs failed him for fear, as he beheld the fleet son of Peleus, all glorious in his armour, and looking like Mars himself. When, however, the Olympians came to take their part among men, forthwith uprose strong Strife, rouser of hosts, and Minerva raised her loud voice, now standing by the deep trench that ran outside the wall, and now shouting with all her might upon the shore of the sounding sea. Mars also bellowed out upon the other side, dark as some black thundercloud, and called on the Trojans at the top of his voice, now from the Acropolis, and now speeding up the side of the river Simois, till he came to the hill Callicolone. Thus did the gods spur on both hosts to fight, and rouse fierce contention also among themselves. The sire of gods and men thundered from heaven above, while from beneath Neptune shook the vast earth and bade the high hills tremble. The spurs and crests of many-fountained Ida quaked, as also the city of the Trojans and the ships of the Achaeans. Hades, king of the realms below, was struck with fear. He sprang panic-stricken from his throne and cried aloud in terror lest Neptune, lord of the earthquake, should crack the ground over his head and lay bare his mouldy mansions to the sight of mortals and immortals. Mansions so ghastly grim that even the gods shudder to think of them. Such was the uproar as the gods came together in battle. Apollo with his arrows took his stand to face King Neptune, while Minerva took hers against the god of war. The archer goddess Diana with her golden arrows, sister of far-darting Apollo, stood to face Juno. Mercury, the lusty bringer of good luck, faced Leto, while the mighty eddying river, whom men can Scamander but gods Xanthus, matched himself against Vulcan. The gods, then, were thus ranged against one another. But the heart of Achilles was set on meeting Hector, son of Priam, for it was with his blood that he longed above all things else to glut the stubborn lord of battle. Meanwhile, Apollo set Aeneas on to attack the son of Peleus, and put courage into his heart, speaking with the voice of Lycaon, son of Priam. In his likeness, therefore, he said to Aeneas, "Aeneas, counsellor of the Trojans, where are now the brave words with which you vaunted over your wine before the Trojan princes, saying that you would fight Achilles, son of Peleus, in single combat?" And Aeneas answered, "Why do you thus bid me fight the proud son of Peleus, when I am in no mind to do so? Were I to face him now, it would not be for the first time. His spear has already put me to flight from Ida, when he attacked our cattle and sacked Lyrnessus and Pedasus. Jove indeed saved me in that. He vouchsafed me strength to fly, else had I fallen by the hands of Achilles and Minerva, who went before him to protect him and urged him to fall upon the Lelegae and Trojans. No man may fight Achilles, for one of the gods is always with him as his guardian angel, and even were it not so, his weapon flies ever straight and fails not to pierce the flesh of him who is against him. If heaven would let me fight him on even terms, he should not soon overcome me, though he boasts that he is made of bronze." Then said King Apollo, son to Jove, "Nay, hero, pray to the ever-living gods, for men say that you were born of Jove's daughter Venus, whereas Achilles is son to a goddess of inferior rank. Venus is child to Jove, while Thetis is but daughter to the old man of the sea. Bring therefore your spear to bear upon him, and let him not scare you with his taunts and menaces." As he spoke, he put courage into the heart of the shepherd of his people, and he strode in full armour among the ranks of the foremost fighters. Nor did the son of Anchises escape the notice of white-armed Juno as he went forth into the throng to meet Achilles. She called the gods about her and said, "Look to it, you two, Neptune and Minerva, and consider how this shall be. Phoebus Apollo has been sending Aeneas clad in full armour to fight Achilles. Shall we turn him back at once, or shall one of us stand by Achilles and endow him with strength so that his heart fail not, and he may learn that the chiefs of the immortals are on his side, while the others who have all along been defending the Trojans are but vain helpers? Let us all come down from Olympus and join in the fight, that this day he may take no hurt at the hands of the Trojans. Hereafter let him suffer whatever fate may have spun out for him when he was begotten and his mother bore him. If Achilles be not thus assured by the voice of a god, he may come to fear presently when one of us meets him in battle. For the gods are terrible if they are seen face to face." Neptune, lord of the earthquake, answered her, saying, "Juno, restrain your fury, it is not well. I am not in favour of forcing the other gods to fight us, for the advantage is too greatly on our own side. Let us take our places on some hill out of the beaten track, and let mortals fight it out among themselves. If Mars or Phoebus Apollo begin fighting, or keep Achilles in check so that he cannot fight, we too will at once raise the cry of battle, and in that case they will soon leave the field and go back vanquished to Olympus among the other gods." With these words, the dark-haired god led the way to the high earth barrow of Hercules, built round solid masonry and made by the Trojans and Pallas Minerva for him to fly to when the sea monster was chasing him from the shore onto the plain. Here, Neptune and those that were with him took their seats, wrapped in a thick cloud of darkness. But the other gods seated themselves on the brow of Callicalone round you, O Phoebus, and Mars, the waster of cities. Thus did the gods sit apart and form their plans, but neither side was willing to begin battle with the other. And Jove, from his seat on high, was in command over them all. Meanwhile the whole plain was alive with men and horses, and blazing with the gleam of armour. The earth rang again under the tramp of their feet as they rushed towards each other, and two champions, by far the foremost of them all, met between the hosts to fight, to wit, Aeneas son of Anchises and noble Achilles. Aeneas was first to stride forward in attack, his doughty helmet tossing defiance as he came on. He held his strong shield before his breast and brandished his bronze spear. The son of Peleus from the other side sprang forth to meet him, like some fierce lion that the whole countryside has met to hunt and kill. At first he bodes no ill, but when some daring youth has struck him with a spear, he crouches open-mouthed, his jaws foam, he roars with fury, he lashes his tail from side to side about his ribs and loins, and glares as he springs straight before him, to find out whether he is to slay or be slain among the foremost of his foes. Even with such fury did Achilles burn to spring upon Aeneas. When they were now close up with one another, Achilles was first to speak. "Aeneas," said he, "why do you stand thus out before the host to fight me? Is it that you hope to reign over the Trojans in the seat of Priam? Nay, though you kill me, Priam will not hand his kingdom over to you. He is a man of sound judgment, and he has sons of his own. Or have the Trojans been allotting you a demesne of passing richness, fair with orchard lawns and corn lands, if you should slay me? This you shall hardly do. I have discomfited you once already. Have you forgotten how, when you were alone, I chased you from your herds, helter-skelter down the slopes of Ida? You did not turn round to look behind you. You took refuge in Lyrnessus. But I attacked the city, and with the help of Minerva and Father Jove, I sacked it and carried its women into captivity, though Jove and the other gods rescued you. You think they will protect you now, but they will not do so. Therefore I say, go back into the host, and do not face me, or you will rue it. Even a fool may be wise after the event." Then Aeneas answered, "Son of Peleus, think not that your words can scare me as though I were a child. I too, if I will, can brag and talk unseemly. We know one another's race and parentage as matters of common fame, though neither have you ever seen my parents nor I yours. Men say that you are son to noble Peleus, and that your mother is Thetis, fair-haired daughter of the sea. I have noble Anchises for my father, and Venus for my mother. The parents of one or other of us shall this day mourn a son, for it will be more than silly talk that shall part us when the fight is over. Learn, then, my lineage, if you will. And it is known to many. In the beginning Dardanus was the son of Jove, and founded Dardania, for Ilias was not yet stablished on the plain for men to dwell in, and her people still abode on the spurs of many-fountained Ida. Dardanus had a son, King Erichthonius, who was wealthiest of all men living. He had 3,000 mares that fed by the water meadows, they and their foals with them. Boreas was enamored of them as they were feeding, and covered them in the semblance of a dark-maned stallion. 12 filly foals did they conceive and bear him, and these, as they sped over the rich plain, would go bounding on over the ripe ears of corn, and not break them. Or again, when they would disport themselves on the broad back of ocean, they could gallop on the crest of a breaker. Erichthonius begat Tros, king of the Trojans, and Tros had 3 noble sons, Ilus, Assaracus, and Ganymede, who was comeliest of mortal men. Wherefore the gods carried him off to be Jove's cupbearer, for his beauty's sake, that he might dwell among the immortals. Ilus begat Laomedon, and Laomedon begat Tithonus, Priam, Lampus, Titius, and Hicetaon of the stock of Mars. But Assaracus was father to Capys, and Capys to Anchises, who was my father, while Hector is son to Priam. Such do I declare my blood and lineage. But as for valor, Jove gives it or takes it as he will, for he is Lord of all. And now let there be no more of this prating in mid-battle as though we were children. We could fling taunts without end at one another. 100-oared galley would not hold them. The tongue can run all withers and talk all wise. It can go here and there, and as a man says, so shall he be gainsaid. What is the use of our bandying hard like women who, when they fall foul of one another, go out and wrangle in the streets, one half true, and the other lies, as rage inspires them? No words of yours shall turn me now that I am fain to fight. Therefore let us make trial of one another with our spears. As he spoke, he drove his spear at the great and terrible shield of Achilles, which rang out as the point struck it. The son of Peleus held the shield before him with his strong hand, and he was afraid, for he deemed that Aeneas's spear would go through it quite easily, not reflecting that the gods' glorious gifts were little likely to yield before the blows of mortal men. And indeed Aeneas's spear did not pierce the shield, for the layer of gold, gift of the god, stayed the point. It went through 2 layers. But the god had made the shield in 5, 2 of bronze, the 2 innermost ones of tin, and 1 of gold. It was in this that the spear was stayed. Achilles in his turn threw, and struck the round shield of Aeneas at the very edge, where the bronze was thinnest. The spear of Pelian ash went clean through, and the shield rang under the blow. Aeneas was afraid, and crouched backwards, holding the shield away from him. The spear, however, flew over his back and stuck quivering in the ground, after having gone through both circles of the sheltering shield. Aeneas, though he had avoided the spear, stood still, blinded with fear and grief because the weapon had gone so near him. Then Achilles sprang furiously upon him, with a cry as of death, and with his keen blade drawn, and Aeneas seized a great stone, so huge that 2 men, as men now are, would be unable to lift it. But Aeneas wielded it quite easily. Aeneas would then have struck Achilles as he was springing towards him, either on the helmet or on the shield that covered him, and Achilles would have closed with him and dispatched him with his sword, had not Neptune, lord of the earthquake, been quick to mark, and said forthwith to the immortals, Alas, I am sorry for great Aeneas, who will now go down to the house of Hades, vanquished by the son of Peleus. Fool that he was, to give ear to the counsel of Apollo. Apollo will never save him from destruction. Why should this man suffer when he is guiltless, to no purpose? And in another's quarrel? Has he not at all times offered acceptable sacrifice to the gods that dwell in heaven? Let us then snatch him from death's jaws, lest the son of Saturn be angry should Achilles slay him. It is fated, moreover, that he should escape, and that the race of Dardanus, whom Jove loved above all the sons born to him of mortal women, shall not perish utterly without seed or sign. For now indeed has Jove hated the blood of Priam, while Aeneas shall reign over the Trojans, he and his children's children that shall be born hereafter. Then answered Juno, Earth-shaker, look to this matter yourself, and consider concerning Aeneas, whether you will save him, or suffer him, brave though he be, to fall by the hand of Achilles, son of Peleus. For of a truth, we two, I and Pallas Minerva, have sworn full many a time before all the immortals, that never would we shield Trojans from destruction, not even when all Troy is burning in the flames that the Achaeans shall kindle. When earth-encircling Neptune heard this, he went into the battle amid the clash of spears, and came to the place where Achilles and Aeneas were. Forthwith he shed a darkness before the eyes of the son of Peleus, drew the bronze-headed ashen spear from the shield of Aeneas, and laid it at the feet of Achilles. Then he lifted Aeneas on high from off the earth, and hurried him away, over the heads of many a band of warriors, both horse and foot. Did he soar, as the god's hand sped him, till he came to the very fringe of the battle where the Corconians were arming themselves for fight. Neptune, shaker of the earth, then came near to him and said, Aeneas, what god has egged you on to this folly in fighting the son of Peleus, who is both a mightier man of valor and more beloved of heaven than you are? Give way before him whensoever you meet him, lest you go down to the house of Hades, even though fate would have it otherwise. When Achilles is dead, you may then fight among the foremost undaunted, for none other of the Achaeans shall slay you. The god left him when he had given him these instructions, and at once removed the darkness from before the eyes of Achilles, who opened them wide indeed, and said in great anger, Alas, what marvel am I now beholding? Here is my spear upon the ground, but I see not him whom I meant to kill when I hurled it. Of a truth, Aeneas also must be under heaven's protection, although I had thought his boasting was idle. Let him go hang. He will be in no mood to fight me further, seeing how narrowly he has missed being killed. I will now give my orders to the Danaans, and attack some other of the Trojans. He sprang forward along the line, and cheered his men on as he did so. Let not the Trojans, he cried, keep you at arm's length, Achaeans, but go for them and fight them man for man. However valiant I may be, I cannot give chase to so many and fight all of them. Even Mars, who is an immortal, or Minerva, would shrink from flinging himself into the jaws of such a fight and laying about him. Nevertheless, so far as in me lies, I will show no slackness of hand or foot, nor want of endurance, not even for a moment. I will utterly break their ranks, and woe to the Trojan who shall venture within reach of my spear. Thus did he exhort them. Meanwhile Hector called upon the Trojans, and declared that he would fight Achilles. Be not afraid, proud Trojans, said he, to face the son of Peleus. I could fight gods myself if the battle were one of words only. But they would be more than a match for me if we had to use our spears. Even so, the deed of Achilles will fall somewhat short of his word. He will do in part, and the other part he will clip short. I will go up against him, though his hands be as fire. Though his hands be fire and his strength iron. Thus urged, the Trojans lifted up their spears against the Achaeans, and raised the cry of battle as they flung themselves into the midst of their ranks. But Phoebus Apollo came up to Hector and said, Hector, on no account must you challenge Achilles to single combat. Keep a lookout for him while you are under cover of the others and away from the thick of the fight. Otherwise he will either hit you with a spear or cut you down at close quarters. Thus he spoke, and Hector drew back within the crowd, for he was afraid when he heard what the god had said to him. Achilles then sprang upon the Trojans with a terrible cry, clothed in valor as with a garment. First he killed Iphicon, son of Otrynteus, a leader of much people whom a naiad nymph had borne to Otrynteus, waster of cities, in the land of Hyde, under the snowy heights of Meteimolus. Achilles struck him full on the head as he was coming on towards him, and split it clean in two, whereon he fell heavily to the ground, and Achilles vaunted over him, saying, "You be low, son of Otrynteus, mighty hero, your death is here. But your lineage is on the Gygaean lake, where your father's estate lies, by Hyllus, rich in fish and the eddying waters of Hermus." Thus did he vaunt, but darkness closed the eyes of the other. The chariots of the Achaeans cut him up as their wheels passed over him in the front of the battle, and after him Achilles killed Demoleon, a valiant man of war and son to Antenor. He struck him on the temple through his bronze-cheeked helmet. The helmet did not stay the spear, but it went right on, crushing the bones so that the brain inside was shed in all directions, and his lust of fighting was ended. Then he struck Hippodamus in the midriff as he was springing down from his chariot in front of him and trying to escape. He breathed his last, bellowing like a bull bellows when young men are dragging him to offer him in sacrifice to the king of Hellas. And the heart of the earth-shaker is glad. Even so did he bellow as he lay dying. Achilles then went in pursuit of Polydorus, son of Priam, whom his father had always forbidden to fight because he was the youngest of his sons, the one he loved best, and the fastest runner. He, in his folly and showing off the fleetness of his feet, was rushing about among front ranks until he lost his life. For Achilles struck him in the middle of the back as he was darting past him. He struck him just at the golden fastenings of his belt, and where the two pieces of the double breastplate overlapped. The point of the spear pierced him through and came out by the navel, whereon he fell, groaning onto his knees, and a cloud of darkness overshadowed him as he sank, holding his entrails in his hands. When Hector saw his brother Polydorus with his entrails in his hands and sinking down upon the ground, a mist came over his eyes, and he could not bear to keep longer at a distance. He therefore poised his spear and darted towards Achilles like a flame of fire. When Achilles saw him, he bounded forward and vaunted, saying, "This is he that has wounded my heart most deeply, and has slain my beloved comrade. Not for long shall we two quail before one another on the highways of war." He looked fiercely on Hector and said, "Draw near, that you may meet your doom the sooner." Hector feared him not, and answered, "Son of Peleus, think not that your words can scare me as though I were a child. I too, if I will, can brag and talk unseemly. I know that you are a mighty warrior, mightier by far than I. Nevertheless, the issue lies in the lap of heaven, whether I, worse man though I be, may not slay you with my spear, for this too has been found keen ere now." He hurled his spear as he spoke, but Minerva breathed upon it, and though she breathed but very lightly, she turned it back from going towards Achilles, so that it returned to Hector, and lay at his feet in front of him. Achilles then sprang furiously on him with a loud cry, bent on killing him. But Apollo caught him up easily as a god can, and hid him in a thick darkness. Thrice did Achilles spring towards him spear in hand, and thrice did he waste his blow upon the air. When he rushed forward for the fourth time, as though he were a god, he shouted aloud, saying, "Hound, this time too you have escaped death, but of a truth it came exceedingly near you. Phoebus, Apollo, to whom it seems you pray before you go into battle, has again saved you. But if I too have any friend among the gods, I will surely make an end of you when I come across you at some other time. Now, however, I will pursue and overtake other Trojans." On this He struck Dryops with his spear about the middle of his neck, and he fell headlong at his feet. There he let him lie and stayed. Demuchus, son of Philetor, a man both brave and of great stature, by hitting him on the knee with a spear. Then he smote him with his sword and killed him. After this he sprang on Laugonus and Dardanus, sons of Bias, and threw them from their chariot, the one with a blow from a thrown spear, while the other he cut down in hand-to-hand fight. There was also Tros, the son of Alastor. He came up to Achilles and clasped his knees in the hope that he would spare him and not kill him, but let him go, because they were both of the same age. Fool, he might have known that he should not prevail with him, for the man was in no mood for pity or forbearance, but was in grim earnest. Therefore, when Tros laid hold of his knees and sought a hearing for his prayers, Achilles drove his sword into his liver, and the liver came rolling out, while his bosom was all covered with the black blood that welled from the wound. Thus did death close his eyes as he lay lifeless. Achilles then went up to Mulius and struck him on the ear with a spear, and the bronze spearhead came right out at the other ear. He also struck Echeclus, son of Agenor, on the head with his sword, which became warm with the blood, while death and stern fate closed the eyes of Echeclus. Next in order, the bronze point of his spear wounded Deucalion in the forearm, where the sinews of the elbow are united, whereon he waited. Achilles' onset with his arm hanging down, and death staring him in the face. Achilles cut his head off with a blow from his sword, and flung it, helmet, and all away from him, and the marrow came oozing out of his backbone as he lay. He then went in pursuit of Rhydmus, noble son of Paris, who had come from fertile Thrace, and struck him through the middle with a spear which fixed itself in his belly, so that he fell headlong from his chariot. He also speared Arethaus' squire to Rhydmus in the back as he was turning his horses in flight, and thrust him from his chariot, while the horses were struck with panic, as a fire raging in some mountain glen after long drought, and the dense forest is in a blaze, while the wind carries great tongues of fire in every direction. Even so furiously did Achilles rage, wielding his spear as though he were a god, and giving chase to those whom he would slay, till the dark earth ran with blood, or as one who yokes broad-browed oxen, that they may tread barley in a threshing floor, and it is soon bruised small under the feet of the lowing cattle. Even so did the horses of Achilles trample on the shields and bodies of the slain. The axle underneath and the railing that ran round the car were bespattered with clots of blood thrown up by the horses' hoofs, and from the tires of the wheels. But the son of Peleus pressed on to win still further glory, and his hands were bedrabbled with gore. The fight between Achilles and the river Scamander. The gods fight among themselves. Achilles drives the Trojans within their gates. Now when they came to the ford of the full-flowing river Xanthus, begotten of immortal Jove, Achilles cut their forces in two, one half. He chased over the plain towards the city by the same way that the Achaeans had taken when flying, panic-stricken on the preceding day. With Hector in full triumph, this way did they fly pell-mell, and Juno sent down a thick mist in front of them to stay them. The other half were hemmed in by the deep silver eddying stream, and fell into it with a great uproar. The waters resounded, and the banks rang again, as they swam hither and thither with loud cries amid the whirling eddies, as locusts flying to a river before the blast of a grass fire. The flame comes on and on, till at last it overtakes them, and they huddle into the water. Even so was the eddying stream of Xanthus filled with the uproar of men and horses, all struggling in confusion before Achilles. Forthwith the hero left his spear upon the bank, leaning it against a tamarisk bush, and plunged into the river like a god, armed with his sword only. Fell was his purpose as he hewed the Trojans down on every side, Their dying groans rose hideous as the sword smote them, and the river ran red with blood, as when fish fly scared before a huge dolphin, and fill every nook and corner of some fair haven, for he is sure to eat all he can catch. Even so did the Trojans cower under the banks of the mighty river, and when Achilles' arms grew weary with killing them, he drew 12 youths alive out of the water, to sacrifice in revenge for Patroclus, son of Menoetius. He drew them out like dazed fawns, bound their hands behind them with the girdles of their own shirts, and gave them over to his men to take back to the ships. Then he sprang into the river, thirsting for still further blood. There he found Lycaon, son of Priam, seed of Dardanus. As he was escaping out of the water, he it was whom he had once taken prisoner when he was in his father's vineyard, having set upon him by night, as he was cutting young shoots from a wild fig tree to make the wicker sides of a chariot. Achilles then caught him to his sorrow unawares, and sent him by sea to Lemnos, where the son of Jason brought him. But a guest friend, Ion of Imbros, freed him with a great sum, and sent him to Arisbe, whence he had escaped and returned to his father's house. He had spent 11 days happily with his friends, after he had come from Lemnos. But on the 12th heaven again delivered him into the hands of Achilles, who was to send him to the house of Hades sorely against his will. He was unarmed when Achilles caught sight of him, and had neither helmet nor shield, nor yet had he any spear, for he had thrown all his armor from him onto the bank, and was sweating with his struggles to get out of the river, so that his strength was now failing him. Then Achilles said to himself in his surprise, "What marvel do I see here? If this man can come back alive after having been sold over into Lemnos, I shall have the Trojans also, whom I have slain, rising from the world below. Could not even the waters of the grey sea imprison him, as they do many another, whether he will or no? This time let him taste my spear, that I may know for certain whether Mother Earth, who can keep even a strong man down, will be able to hold him, or whether thence too he will return." Thus did he pause and ponder. But Lycaon came up to him dazed, and trying hard to embrace his knees, for he would fain live, not die. Achilles thrust at him with his spear, meaning to kill him. But Lycaon ran, crouching up to him, and caught his knees, whereby the spear passed over his back, and stuck in the ground, hungering though it was for blood. With one hand he caught Achilles' knees as he besought him, and with the other he clutched the spear and would not let it go. Then he said, "Achilles, have mercy upon me and spare me, for I am your suppliant. It was in your tents that I first broke bread on the day when you took me prisoner in the vineyard, after which you sold me away to Lemnos, far from my father and my friends, and I brought you the price of 100 oxen. I have paid 3 times as much to gain my freedom. It is but 12 days that I have come to Ilios after much suffering, and now cruel fate has again thrown me into your hands. Surely Father Jove must hate me, that he has given me over to you a second time. Short of life indeed did my mother Lauto bear me, daughter of aged Altes, who reigns over the warlike Lelige and holds steep Pedasus on the river Satniois. Priam married his daughter along with many other women, and 2 sons were born of her, both of whom you will have slain. Your spear slew noble Polydorus as he was fighting in the front ranks, and now evil will here befall me, for I fear that I shall not escape you, since heaven has delivered me over to you. Furthermore I say, and lay my saying to your heart, spare me, for I am not of the same womb as Hector, who slew your brave and noble comrade." With such words did the princely son of Priam beseech Achilles, but Achilles answered him sternly. "Idiot," said he, "talk not to me of ransom. Until Patroclus fell, I preferred to give the Trojans quarter, and sold beyond the sea many of those whom I had taken alive. But now not a man shall live of those whom heaven delivers into my hands before the city of Ilias, and of all Trojans it shall fare hardest with the sons of Priam. Therefore, my friend, you too shall die. Why should you whine in this way?" Patroclus fell, and he was a better man than you are. I too. See you not how I am great and goodly? I am son to a noble father, and have a goddess for my mother. But the hands of doom and death overshadow me all as surely. The day will come, either at dawn or dark, or at the noontide, when one shall take my life also in battle, either with his spear or with an arrow sped from his bow. Thus did he speak, and Lycaon's heart sank within him. He loosed his hold of the spear and held out both hands before him. But Achilles drew his keen blade and struck him by the collarbone on his neck. He plunged his two-edged sword into him to the very hilt, whereon he lay at full length on the ground, with the dark blood welling from him till the earth was soaked. Then Achilles caught him by the foot and flung him into the river to go downstream, vaunting over him the while and saying, "Lie there among the fishes, who will lick the blood from your wound and gloat over it. Your mother shall not lay you on any bier to mourn you, but the eddies of Scamander shall bear you into the broad bosom of the sea. There shall the fishes feed on the fat of Lycaon, as they dart under the dark ripple of the waters. So perish all of you, till we reach the citadel of strong Ilias. You in flight, and I following after to destroy you. The river with its broad silver stream shall serve you in no stead, for all the bulls you offered him, and all the horses that you flung living into his waters. None the less miserably shall you perish, till there is not a man of you but has paid in full for the death of Patroclus and the havoc you wrought among the Achaeans, whom you have slain while I held aloof from battle." So spoke Achilles, but the river grew more and more angry, and pondered within himself how he should stay the hand of Achilles and save the Trojans from disaster. Meanwhile, the son of Peleus, spear in hand, sprang upon Asteropaeus, son of Pelegon, to kill him. He was son to the broad river Axius and Periboea, eldest daughter of Axessamenus, for the river had lain with her. Asteropaeus stood up out of the water to face him with a spear in either hand, and Xanthus filled him with courage, being angry for the death of the youths whom Achilles was slaying ruthlessly within his waters. When they were close up with one another, Achilles was first to speak. "Who and whence are you," said he, "who dare to face me? Woe to the parents whose son stands up against me." And the son of Pelegon answered, "Great son of Peleus, why should you ask my lineage? I am from the fertile land of far Paeonia, captain of the Paeonians, and it is now 11 days that I am at Ilius. I am of the blood of the river Axius. Of Axius, that is the fairest of all rivers that run. He begot the famed warrior Pelegon, whose son men call me. Let us now fight, Achilles." Thus did he defy him, and Achilles raised his spear of Pelian ash. Asteropaeus failed with both his spears, for he could use both hands alike. With the one spear he struck Achilles' shield, but did not pierce it, for the layer of gold, gift of the god, stayed the point. With the other spear he grazed the elbow of Achilles' right arm, drawing dark blood. But the spear itself went by him and fixed itself in the ground, foiled of its bloody banquet. Then Achilles, fain to kill him, hurled his spear at Asteropaeus, but failed to hit him, and struck the steep bank of the river, driving the spear half its length into the earth. The son of Peleus then drew his sword and sprang furiously upon him. Asteropaeus vainly tried to draw Achilles' spear out of the bank by main force. Thrice did he tug at it, trying with all his might to draw it out, and thrice he had to leave off trying. The fourth time he tried to bend and break it, but ere he could do so, Achilles smote him with his sword and killed him. He struck him in the belly near the navel, so that all his bowels came gushing out onto the ground, and the darkness of death came over him as he lay gasping. Then Achilles set his foot on his chest and spoiled him of his armor, vaunting over him and saying, "Lie there! Begotten of a river though you be, it is hard for you to strive with the offspring of Saturn's son. You declare yourself sprung from the blood of a broad river, but I am of the seed of mighty Jove. My father is Peleus, son of Aeacus, ruler over the many Myrmidons, and Aeacus was the son of Jove. Therefore, as Jove is mightier than any river that flows into the sea, so are his children stronger than those of any river whatsoever. Moreover, you have a great river hard by, if he can be of any use to you. But there is no fighting against Jove, the son of Saturn, with whom not even King Achelous can compare, nor the mighty stream of deep-flowing Oceanus, from whom all rivers and seas with all springs and deep wells proceed. Even Oceanus fears the lightnings of great Jove, and his thunder that comes crashing out of heaven." With this he drew his bronze spear out of the bank, and now that he had killed Asteropaeus, he let him lie where he was on the sand, with the dark water flowing over him, and the eels and fishes busy nibbling and gnawing the fat that was about his kidneys. Then he went in chase of the Paeonians, who were flying along the bank of the river in panic when they saw their leader slain by the hands of the son of Peleus. Therein he slew Thesilochus, Mydon, Astypulus, Menesus, Thracius, Oeneus, and Ophelestes, and he would have slain yet others, had not the river in anger taken human form and spoken to him from out the deep waters, saying, "Achilles, if you excel all in strength, so do you also in wickedness, for the gods are ever with you to protect you. If, then, the son of Saturn has vouchsafed it to you to destroy all the Trojans, at any rate drive them out of my stream and do your grim work on land. My fair waters are now filled with corpses, nor can I find any channel by which I may pour myself into the sea, for I am choked with dead, and yet you go on mercilessly slaying. I am in despair, therefore, O captain of your host, trouble me no further." Achilles answered, "So be it, Scamander." Jove descended, "But I will never cease dealing out death among the Trojans, till I have pent them up in their city, and made trial of Hector face to face, that I may learn whether he is to vanquish me, or I him." As he spoke, he set upon the Trojans with a fury like that of the gods. But the river said to Apollo, "Surely, son of Jove, lord of the silver bow, you are not obeying the commands of Jove, who charged you straitly that you should stand by the Trojans and defend them, till twilight fades and darkness is over the earth." Meanwhile, Achilles sprang from the bank into midstream, whereon the river raised a high wave and attacked him. He swelled his stream into a torrent, and swept away the many dead whom Achilles had slain and left within his waters. These he cast out onto the land, bellowing like a bull the while, but the living he saved alive, hiding them in his mighty eddies. The great and terrible wave gathered about Achilles, falling upon him and beating on his shield, so that he could not keep his feet. He caught hold of a great elm tree, but it came up by the roots and tore away the bank, damming the stream with its thick branches and bridging it all across, whereby Achilles struggled out of the stream and fled full speed over the plain, for he was afraid. But the mighty god ceased not in his pursuit, and sprang upon him with a dark crested wave to stay his hands and save the Trojans from destruction. The son of Peleus darted away a spear's throw from him, swift as the swoop of a black hunter-eagle, which is the strongest and fleetest of all birds. Even so did he spring forward, and the armor rang loudly about his breast. He fled on in front, but the river with a loud roar came tearing after. As one who would water his garden leads a stream from some fountain over his plants and all his ground. Spade in hand, he clears away the dams to free the channels, and the little stones run rolling round and round with the water as it goes merrily down the bank faster than the man can follow. Even so did the river keep catching up with Achilles, albeit he was a fleet runner, for the gods are stronger than men. As often as he would strive to stand his ground, and see whether or no all the gods in heaven were in league against him, so often would the mighty wave come beating down upon his shoulders, and he would have to keep flying on and on in great dismay, for the angry flood was tiring him out as it flowed past him and ate the ground from under his feet. Then the son of Peleus lifted up his voice to heaven, saying, "Father Jove, is there none of the gods who will take pity upon me and save me from the river? I do not care what may happen to me afterwards. I blame none of the other dwellers on Olympus so severely as I do my dear mother. Who has beguiled and tricked me? She told me I was to fall under the walls of Troy by the flying arrows of Apollo. Would that Hector, the best man among the Trojans, might there slay me, then should I fall a hero by the hand of a hero. Whereas now it seems that I shall come to a most pitiable end, trapped in this river as though I were some swineherd's boy, who gets carried down a torrent while trying to cross it during a storm." As soon as he had spoken thus, Neptune and Minerva came up to him in the likeness of two men, and took him by the hand to reassure him. Neptune spoke first. "Son of Peleus," said he, "be not so exceeding fearful. We are two gods, come with Jove's sanction to assist you, I and Pallas Minerva. It is not your fate to perish in this river. He will abate presently, as you will see. Moreover, we strongly advise you, if you will be guided by us, not to stay your hand from fighting till you have pent the Trojan host within the famed walls of Iliad, as many of them as may escape. Then kill Hector and go back to the ships, for we will vouchsafe you a triumph over him." When they had so said, they went back to the other immortals, but Achilles strove onward over the plain, encouraged by the charge the gods had laid upon him. All was now covered with the flood of waters, and much goodly armour of the youths that had been slain was rifting about, as also many corpses. But he forced his way against the stream, speeding right onwards, nor could the broad waters stay him, for Minerva had endowed him with great strength. Nevertheless, Scamander did not slacken in his pursuit, but was still more furious with the son of Peleus. He lifted his waters into a high crest and cried aloud to Simois, saying, "Dear brother, let the two of us unite to save this man, or he will sack the mighty city of King Priam, and the Trojans will not hold out against him. Help me at once. Fill your streams with water from their sources, rouse all your torrents to a fury, raise your wave on high, and let snags and stones come thundering down you, that we may make an end of this savage creature, who is now lording it as though he were a god. Nothing shall serve him longer, not strength, nor comeliness, nor his fine armour, which forsooth shall soon be lying low in the deep waters covered over with mud. I will wrap him in sand, and pour tons of shingle round him, so that the Achaeans shall not know how to gather his bones for the silt in which I shall have hidden him. And when they celebrate his funeral, they need build no barrow." On this he upraised his tumultuous flood high against Achilles, seething as it was with foam and blood and the bodies of the dead. The dark waters of the river stood upright and would have overwhelmed the son of Peleus, but Juno, trembling lest Achilles should be swept away in the mighty torrent, lifted her voice on high and called out to Vulcan her son. "Crookfoot," she cried, "my child, be up and doing, For I deem it is with you that Xanthus is fain to fight. Help us at once, kindle a fierce fire. I will then bring up the west, and the white south wind in a mighty hurricane from the sea. That shall bear the flames against the heads and armour of the Trojans, and consume them. While you go along the banks of Xanthus, burning his trees and wrapping him round with fire, let him not turn you back, neither by fair words nor foul, and slacken not till I shout and tell you. Then you may stay your flames. On this Vulcan kindled a fierce fire, which broke out first upon the plain and burned the many dead whom Achilles had killed, and whose bodies were lying about in great numbers. By this means the plain was dried and the flood stayed. As the north wind, blowing on an orchard that has been sodden with autumn rain, soon dries it, and the heart of the owner is glad. Even so, the whole plain was dried, and the dead bodies were consumed. Then he turned tongues of fire onto the river. He burned the elms, the willows and the tamarisks, the lotus also, with the rushes and marshy herbage that grew abundantly by the banks of the river. The eels and fishes that go darting about everywhere in the water, these too were sorely harassed by the flames that cunning Vulcan had kindled, and the river himself was scalded, so that he spoke, saying, Vulcan, there is no god can hold his own against you. I cannot fight you when you flare out your flames in this way. Strive with me no longer. Let Achilles drive the Trojans out of their city immediately. What have I to do with quarrelling and helping people? He was boiling as he spoke, and all his waters were seething. As a cauldron upon a large fire boils, when it is melting the lard of some fatted hog, and the lard keeps bubbling up all over when the dry faggots blaze under it. Even so were the goodly waters of Xanthus heated with the fire till they were boiling. He could flow no longer, but stayed his stream, so afflicted was he by the blasts of fire which cunning Vulcan had raised. Then he prayed to Juno and besought her, saying, Juno, why should your son vex my stream with such especial fury? I am not so much to blame as all the others are who have been helping the Trojans. I will leave off, since you so desire it, and let your son leave off also. Furthermore, I swear never again will I do anything to save the Trojans from destruction, not even when all Troy is burning in the flames which the Achaeans will kindle. As soon as Juno heard this, she said to her son Vulcan, Son Vulcan, hold now your flames. We ought not to use such violence against a god for the sake of mortals. When she had thus spoken, Vulcan quenched his flames, and the river went back once more into his own fair bed. Xanthus was now beaten, so these two left off fighting, for Juno stayed them, though she was still angry. But a furious quarrel broke out among the other gods, for they were of divided counsels. They fell on one another with a mighty uproar. Earth groaned, and the spacious firmament rang out as with a blare of trumpets. Jove heard as he was sitting on Olympus, and laughed for joy when he saw the gods coming to blows among themselves. They were not long about beginning, and Mars, piercer of shields, opened the battle. Sword in hand, he sprang at once upon Minerva and reviled her. "Why, vixen," said he, "have you again set the gods by the ears in the pride and haughtiness of your heart? Have you forgotten how you set Diomed, son of Tydeus, on to wound me, and yourself took visible spear and drove it into me to the hurt of my fair body? You shall now suffer for what you then did to me." As he spoke, he struck her on the terrible tasseled aegis, so terrible that not even can Jove's lightning pierce it. Here did murderous Mars strike her with his great spear. She drew back, and with her strong hand seized a stone that was lying on the plain, great and rugged and black, which men of old had set for the boundary of a field. With this, she struck Mars on the neck and brought him down. 9 roods did he cover in his fall, and his hair was all soiled in the dust, while his armor rang rattling round him. But Minerva laughed and vaunted over him, saying, "Idiot! Have you not learned how far stronger I am than you? But you must still match yourself against me? Thus do your mother's curses now roost upon you, for she is angry, and would do you mischief because you have deserted the Achaeans and are helping the Trojans." She then turned her 2 piercing eyes elsewhere, whereon Jove's daughter Venus took Mars by the hand and led him away, groaning all the time, for it was only with great difficulty that he had come to himself again. When Queen Juno saw her, she said to Minerva, "Look, daughter of Aegis-bearing Jove, unweariable, that vixen, Venus, is again taking Mars through the crowd out of the battle. Go after her at once." Thus she spoke. Minerva sped after Venus with a will and made at her, striking her on the bosom with her strong hand, so that she fell fainting to the ground, and there they both lay stretched at full length. Then Minerva vaunted over her, saying, "May all who helped the Trojans against the Argives prove just as redoubtable and stalwart as Venus did when she came across me while she was helping Mars." Had this been so, we should long since have ended the war by sacking the strong city of Iliad. Juno smiled as she listened. Meanwhile, King Neptune turned to Apollo, saying, "Phoebus, why should we keep each other at arm's length? It is not well, now that the others have begun fighting. It will be disgraceful to us if we return to Jove's bronze-floored mansion on Olympus without having fought each other. Therefore, come on. You are the younger of the 2, and I ought not to attack you, for I am older and have had more experience. Idiot, you have no sense, and forget how we 2 alone of all the gods fared hardly round about Ilios when we came from Jove's house and worked for Laomedon a whole year at a stated wage. And he gave us his orders. I built the Trojans the wall about their city, so wide and fair that it might be impregnable, while you, Phoebus, herded cattle for him in the dales of many-valleyed Ida. When, however, the glad hours brought round the time of payment, mighty Laomedon robbed us of all our hire and sent us off with nothing but abuse. He threatened to bind us hand and foot and sell us over into some distant island. He tried, moreover, to cut off the ears of both of us, so we went away in a rage, furious about the payment he had promised us, and yet withheld. In spite of all this, you are now showing favor to his people, and will not join us in compassing the utter ruin of the proud Trojans with their wives and children." And King Apollo answered, "Lord of the earthquake, you would have no respect for me if I were to fight you about a pack of miserable mortals, who come out like leaves in summer and eat the fruit of the field and presently fall lifeless to the ground. Let us stay this fighting at once and let them settle it among themselves." He turned away as he spoke, for he would lay no hand on the brother of his own father. But his sister, the huntress Diana, patroness of wild beasts, was very angry with him and said, "So you would fly, far darter, and hand victory over to Neptune with a cheap vaunt to boot? Baby, why keep your bow thus idle? Never let me again hear you bragging in my father's house, as you have often done in the presence of the immortals, that you would stand up and fight with Neptune." Apollo made her no answer, but Jove's august queen was angry and upbraided her bitterly. "Bold vixen," she cried, "how dare you cross me thus? For all your bow, you will find it hard to hold your own against me. Jove made you as a lion among women and lets you kill them whenever you choose. You will find it better to chase wild beasts and deer upon the mountains than to fight those who are stronger than you are. If you would try war, do so, and find out by pitting yourself against me how far stronger I am than you are." She caught both Diana's wrists with her left hand as she spoke, and with her right she took the bow from her shoulders and laughed as she beat her with it about the ears, while Diana wriggled and writhed under her blows. Her swift arrows were shed upon the ground, and she fled, weeping from under Juno's hand, as a dove that flies before a falcon to the cleft of some hollow rock, when it is her good fortune to escape. Even so did she fly, weeping away, leaving her bow and arrows behind her. Then the slayer of Argus, guide and guardian, said to Leto, "Leto, I shall not fight you. It is ill to come to blows with any of Jove's wives. Therefore boast, as you will, among the immortals, that you worsted me in fair fight." Leto then gathered up Diana's bow and arrows that had fallen about amid the whirling dust, and when she had got them, she made all haste after her daughter. Diana had now reached Jove's bronze-floored mansion on Olympus, and sat herself down with many tears on the knees of her father, while her ambrosial raiment was quivering all about her. The son of Saturn drew her towards him, and laughing pleasantly, the while began to question her, saying, "Which of the heavenly beings, my dear child, has been treating you in this cruel manner, as though you had been misconducting yourself in the face of everybody?" And the fair-crowned goddess of the chase answered, "It was your wife Juno, father, who has been beating me. It is always her doing when there is any quarrelling among the immortals." Thus did they converse, and meanwhile Phoebus Apollo entered the strong city of Ilios, for he was uneasy lest the wall should not hold out, and the Danaans should take the city then and there before its hour had come. But the rest of the ever-living gods went back, some angry and some triumphant, to Olympus, where they took their seats beside Jove, lord of the storm cloud, while Achilles still kept on dealing out death alike on the Trojans and on their horses, as when the smoke from some burning city ascends to heaven when the anger of the gods has kindled it. There is then toil for all, and sorrow for not a few. Even so did Achilles bring toil and sorrow on the Trojans. Old King Priam stood on a high tower of the wall, looking down on huge Achilles as the Trojans fled panic-stricken before him, and there was none to help them. Presently he came down from off the tower, and with many a groan went along the wall to give orders to the brave warders of the gate. "Keep the gates," said he, "wide open till the people come flying into the city, for Achilles is hard by and is driving them in rout before him. I see we are in great peril. As soon as our people are inside and in safety, close the strong gates, for I fear lest that terrible man should come bounding inside along with the others." As he spoke, they drew back the boats and opened the gates, and when these were opened, there was a haven of refuge for the Trojans. Apollo then came full speed out of the city to meet them and protect them. Right for the city and the high wall, parched with thirst and grimy with dust, still they fled on, with Achilles wielding his spear furiously behind them. For he was as one possessed, and was thirsting after glory. Then had the sons of the Achaeans taken the lofty gates of Troy, if Apollo had not spurred on Agenor, valiant and noble son to Antenor. He put courage into his heart, and stood by his side to guard him, leaning against a beech tree and shrouded in thick darkness. When Agenor saw Achilles, he stood still, and his heart was clouded with care. "Alas," said he to himself in his dismay, "if I fly before mighty Achilles and go where all the others are being driven in rout, he will none the less catch me and kill me for a coward. How would it be were I to let Achilles drive the others before him, and then fly from the wall to the plain that is behind Ilios, till I reach the spurs of Ida and can hide in the underwood that is thereon? I could then wash the sweat from off me in the river, and in the evening return to Ilios. But why commune with myself in this way? Like enough he would see me, as I am hurrying from the city over the plain, and would speed after me till he had caught me. I should stand no chance against him, for he is mightiest of all mankind. What then, if I go out and meet him in front of the city? His flesh, too, I take it, can be pierced by pointed bronze. Life is the same in one and all, and men say that he is but mortal, despite the triumph that Jove, son of Saturn, vouchsafes him. So saying, he stood on his guard and awaited Achilles, for he was now fain to fight him. As a leopardess that bounds from out a thick covert to attack a hunter, she knows no fear, and is not dismayed by the baying of the hounds, even though the man be too quick for her and wound her either with thrust or spear. Still, though the spear has pierced her, she will not give in till she has either caught him in her grip or been killed outright. Even so did noble Agenor, son of Antenor, refuse to fly till he had made trial of Achilles, and took aim at him with his spear, holding his round shield before him, and crying with a loud voice, "Of a truth," said he, "noble Achilles, you deem that you shall this day sack the city of the proud Trojans. Fool! There will be trouble enough yet before it, for there is many a brave man of us still inside who will stand in front of our dear parents with our wives and children to defend Ilias. Here, therefore, huge and mighty warrior though you be, here shall you die." As he spoke, his strong hand hurled his javelin from him, and the spear struck Achilles on the leg beneath the knee. The greave of newly wrought tin rang loudly, but the spear recoiled from the body of him whom it had struck, and did not pierce it, for the god's gift stayed it. Achilles in his turn attacked noble Agenor, but Apollo would not vouchsafe him glory, for he snatched Agenor away and hid him in a thick mist, sending him out of the battle unmolested. Then he craftily drew the son of Peleus away from going after the host, for he put on the semblance of Agenor and stood in front of Achilles, who ran towards him to give him chase, and pursued him over the cornlands of the plain, turning him towards the deep waters of the river Scamander. Apollo ran but a little way before him, and beguiled Achilles by making him think all the time that he was on the point of overtaking him. Meanwhile, the rabble of routed Trojans was thankful to crowd within the city till their numbers thronged it. No longer did they dare wait for one another outside the city walls, to learn who had escaped and who were fallen in fight, but all whose feet and knees could still carry them poured pell-mell into the town. The death of Hector. Thus the Trojans in the city, scared like fawns, wiped the sweat from off them and drank to quench their thirst, leaning against the goodly battlements, while the Achaeans, with their shields laid upon their shoulders, drew close up to the walls. But stern fate bade Hector stay where he was before Ilias and the Scaean gates. Then Phoebus Apollo spoke to the son of Peleus, saying, "Why, son of Peleus, do you, who are but man, give chase to me, who am immortal? Have you not yet found out that it is a god whom you pursue so furiously? You did not harass the Trojans whom you had routed, and now they are within their walls, while you have been decoyed hither away from them. Me you cannot kill, for death can take no hold upon me." Achilles was greatly angered and said, "You have balked me, Far Darter, most malicious of all gods, and have drawn me away from the wall, where many another man would have bitten the dust ere he got within Ilias. You have robbed me of great glory, and have saved the Trojans at no risk to yourself, for you have nothing to fear, but I would indeed have my revenge if it were in my power to do so." On this, with fell intent, he made towards the city, and, as the winning horse in a chariot race strains every nerve when he is flying over the plain, even so fast and furiously did the limbs of Achilles bear him onwards. King Priam was first to note him as he scoured the plain, all radiant as the star which men call Orion's hound. and whose beams blaze forth in time of harvest more brilliantly than those of any other that shines by night. Brightest of them all though he be, he yet bodes ill for mortals, for he brings fire and fever in his train. Even so did Achilles' armour gleam on his breast as he sped onwards. Priam raised a cry and beat his head with his hands as he lifted them up and shouted out to his dear son, imploring him to return. But Hector still stayed before the gates, for his heart was set upon doing battle with Achilles. The old man reached out his arms towards him and bade him for pity's sake come within the walls. "Hector," he cried, "my son, stay not to face this man alone and unsupported, or you will meet death at the hands of the son of Peleus, for he is mightier than you. Monster that he is, would indeed that the gods loved him no better than I do. For so, dogs and vultures would soon devour him as he lay stretched on earth, and a load of grief would be lifted from my heart, for many a brave son has he reft from me, either by killing them or selling them away in the islands that are beyond the sea. Even now I miss 2 sons from among the Trojans who have thronged within the city, Lycaon and Polydorus, whom Laothoe peeress among women bore me. Should they be still alive and in the hands of the Achaeans, we will ransom them with gold and bronze, of which we have store. For the old man Altes endowed his daughter richly. But if they are already dead and in the house of Hades, sorrow will it be to us, too, who were their parents, albeit the grief of others will be more short-lived, unless you too perish at the hands of Achilles. Come then, my son, within the city, to be the guardian of Trojan men and Trojan women, or you will both lose your own life and afford a mighty triumph to the son of Peleus. Have pity also on your unhappy father while life yet remains to him, on me, whom the son of Saturn will destroy by a terrible doom on the threshold of old age. After I have seen my sons slain, and my daughters haled away as captives, my bridal chambers pillaged, little children dashed to earth amid the rage of battle, and my sons' wives dragged away by the cruel hands of the Achaeans. In the end, fierce hounds will tear me in pieces at my own gates, after someone has beaten the life out of my body with sword or spear. Hounds that I, myself reared and fed at my own table to guard my gates, but who will yet lap my blood and then lie all distraught at my doors. When a young man falls by the sword in battle, he may lie where he is, and there is nothing unseemly. Let what will be seen, all is honourable in death. But when an old man is slain, there is nothing in this world more pitiable than that dogs should defile his grey hair and beard, and all that men hide for shame. The old man tore his grey hair as he spoke, but he moved not the heart of Hector. His mother hard by wept and moaned aloud as she bared her bosom and pointed to the breast which had suckled him. "Hector!" she cried, weeping bitterly the while. "Hector, my son! Spurn not this breast, but have pity upon me too, if I have ever given you comfort from my own bosom. Think on it now, dear son, and come within the wall to protect us from this man. Stand not without to meet him. Should the wretch kill you, neither I nor your richly dowered wife shall ever weep. Dear offshoot of myself, over the bed on which you lie, for dogs will devour you at the ships of the Achaeans." Thus did the two with many tears implore their son, but they moved not the heart of Hector, and he stood his ground awaiting huge Achilles as he drew nearer towards him. As a serpent in its den upon the mountains, full fed with deadly poisons, waits for the approach of man, he is filled with fury, and his eyes glare terribly as he goes writhing round his den. Even so, Hector leaned his shield against a tower that jutted out from the wall and stood where he was, undaunted. "Alas," said he to himself in the heaviness of his heart, "if I go within the gates, Polydamas will be the first to heap reproach upon me. For it was he that urged me to lead the Trojans back to the city on that awful night when Achilles again came forth against us. I would not listen, but it would have been indeed better if I had done so. Now that my folly has destroyed the host, I dare not look Trojan men and Trojan women in the face, lest a worse man should say, Hector has ruined us by his self-confidence. Surely it would be better for me to return after having fought Achilles and slain him, or to die gloriously here before the city. What, again, if I were to lay down my shield and helmet, lean my spear against the wall, and go straight up to noble Achilles? What if I were to promise to give up Helen, who was the fountainhead of all this war, and all the treasure that Alexandrus brought with him in his ships to Troy? Aye, and to let the Achaeans divide the half of everything that the city contains among themselves? I might make the Trojans, by the mouths of their princes, take a solemn oath that they would hide nothing, but would divide into 2 shares all that is within the city. But why argue with myself in this way? Were I to go up to him, he would show me no kind of mercy. He would kill me then and there as easily as though I were a woman, when I had off my armor. There is no parleying with him from some rock or oak tree, as young men and maidens prattle with one another. Better fight him at once, and learn to which of us Jove will vouchsafe victory. Thus did he stand and ponder, but Achilles came up to him as it were Mars himself, plumed lord of battle. From his right shoulder he brandished his terrible spear of Pelian ash, and the bronze gleamed around him like flashing fire or the rays of the rising sun. Fear fell upon Hector as he beheld him, and he dared not stay longer where he was, but fled in dismay from before the gates, while Achilles darted after him at his utmost speed. As a mountain falcon, swiftest of all birds, swoops down upon some cowering dove, the dove flies before him, but the falcon with a shrill scream follows close after, resolved to have her. Even so did Achilles make straight for Hector with all his might, while Hector fled under the Trojan wall as fast as his limbs could take him. On they flew along the wagon road that ran hard by under the wall, past the lookout station and past the weather-beaten wild fig tree, till they came to 2 fair springs which feed the river Scamander. One of these 2 springs is warm, and steam rises from it as smoke from a burning fire. But the other, even in summer, is as cold as hail or snow, or the ice that forms on water. Here, hard by the springs, are the goodly washing troughs of stone, where, in the time of peace, before the coming of the Achaeans, the wives and fair daughters of the Trojans used to wash their clothes. Past these did they fly, the one in front and the other giving chase behind him. Good was the man that fled, but better far was he that followed after, and swiftly indeed did they run. For the prize was no mere beast for sacrifice or bullock's hide, as it might be for a common foot race, but they ran for the life of Hector, as horses in a chariot race speed round the turning posts when they are running for some great prize. A tripod or woman. At the games in honor of some dead hero, so did these 2 run full speed 3 times round the city of Priam. All the gods watched them, and the sire of gods and men was the first to speak. "Alas," said he, "my eyes behold a man who is dear to me, being pursued round the walls of Troy. My heart is full of pity for Hector, who has burned the thigh bones of many a heifer in my honor, one while on the crests of many valleyed Ida, and again on the citadel of Troy. And now I see noble Achilles in full pursuit of him round the city of Priam. What say you? Consider among yourselves, and decide whether we shall now save him or let him fall, valiant though he be, before Achilles, son of Peleus." Then Minerva said, "Father, wielder of the lightning, Lord of cloud and storm, what mean you? Would you pluck this mortal whose doom has long been decreed out of the jaws of death? Do as you will, but we others shall not be of a mind with you. And Jove answered, My child, Trito-born, take heart. I did not speak in full earnest, and I will let you have your way. Do without let or hindrance as you are minded. Thus did he urge Minerva, who was already eager, and down she darted from the topmost summits of Olympus. Achilles was still in full pursuit of Hector, as a hound chasing a fawn which he has started from its covert on the mountains and hunts through glade and thicket. The fawn may try to elude him by crouching under cover of a bush, but he will scent her out and follow her up until he gets her. Even so, there was no escape for Hector from the fleet son of Peleus. Whenever he made a set to get near the Dardanian gates and under the walls, that his people might help him by showering down weapons from above, Achilles would gain on him and head him back towards the plain, keeping himself always on the city side. As a man in a dream who fails to lay hands upon another whom he is pursuing, the one cannot escape, nor the other overtake. Even so, neither could Achilles come up with Hector, nor Hector break away from Achilles. Nevertheless, he might even yet have escaped death had not the time come when Apollo, who thus far had sustained his strength and nerved his running, was now no longer to stay by him. Achilles made signs to the Achaean host, and shook his head to show that no man was to aim a dart at Hector, lest another might win the glory of having hit him, and he might himself come in second. Then, at last, as they were nearing the fountains for the fourth time, the father of all balanced his golden scales and placed a doom in each of them, one for Achilles and the other for Hector. As he held the scales by the middle, the doom of Hector fell down deep into the house of Hades, and then Phoebus Apollo left him. Thereon Minerva went close up to the son of Peleus and said, Noble Achilles, favoured of heaven, we too shall surely take back to the ships a triumph for the Achaeans by slaying Hector for all his lust of battle. Do what Apollo may as he lies grovelling before his father, aegis-bearing Jove, Hector cannot escape us longer. Stay here and take breath, while I go up to him and persuade him to make a stand and fight you. Thus spoke Minerva. Achilles obeyed her gladly, and stood still, leaning on his bronze-pointed ashen spear, while Minerva left him and went after Hector in the form and with the voice of Deiphobus. She came close up to him and said, Dear brother, I see you are hard-pressed by Achilles, who is chasing you at full speed round the city of Priam. Let us await his onset and stand on our defence. And Hector answered, Deiphobus, you have always been dearest to me of all my brothers, children of Hecuba and Priam, but henceforth I shall rate you yet more highly, inasmuch as you have ventured outside the wall for my sake, when all the others remain inside. Then Minerva said, Dear brother, my father and mother went down on their knees and implored me, as did all my comrades, to remain inside. So great a fear has fallen upon them all. But I was in an agony of grief when I beheld you. Now, therefore, let us two make a stand and fight, and let there be no keeping our spears in reserve, that we may learn whether Achilles shall kill us and bear off our spoils to the ships, or whether he shall fall before you. Thus did Minerva inveigle him by her cunning, and when the two were now close to one another, great Hector was first to speak. I will no longer fly you, son of Peleus, said he, as I have been doing hitherto. 3 times have I fled round the mighty city of Priam without daring to withstand you, but now let me either slay or be slain, for I am in the mind to face you. Let us, then, give pledges to one another by our gods, who are the fittest witnesses and guardians of all covenants. Let it be agreed between us that if Jove vouchsafes me the longer stay and I take your life, I am not to treat your dead body in any unseemly fashion, but when I have stripped you of your armor, I am to give up your body to the Achaeans, and do you likewise." Achilles glared at him and answered, "Fool, prate not to me about covenants. There can be no covenants between men and lions. Wolves and lambs can never be of one mind, but hate each other out and out all through. Therefore, there can be no understanding between you and me, nor may there be any covenants between us, till one or other shall fall and glut grim Mars with his life's blood. Put forth all your strength. You have need now to prove yourself indeed a bold soldier and man of war. You have no more chance, and Pallas, Minerva, will forthwith vanquish you by my spear. You shall now pay me in full for the grief you have caused me on account of my comrades whom you have killed in battle." He poised his spear as he spoke and hurled it. Hector saw it coming and avoided it. He watched it and crouched down so that it flew over his head and stuck in the ground beyond. Minerva then snatched it up and gave it back to Achilles without Hector seeing her. Hector thereon said to the son of Peleus, "You have missed your aim, Achilles, peer of the gods, and Jove has not yet revealed to you the hour of my doom, though you made sure that he had done so. You were a false-tongued liar when you deemed that I should forget my valor and quail before you. You shall not drive your spear into the back of a runaway. Drive it, should heaven so grant you power, drive it into me as I make straight towards you. And now for your own part, avoid my spear if you can. Would that you might receive the whole of it into your body, if you were once dead. The Trojans would find the war an easier matter, for it is you who have harmed them most." He poised his spear as he spoke and hurled it. His aim was true, for he hit the middle of Achilles' shield, but the spear rebounded from it and did not pierce it. Hector was angry when he saw that the weapon had sped from his hand in vain, and stood there in dismay, for he had no second spear. With a loud cry he called Deiphobus and asked him for one, but there was no man. Then he saw the truth and said to himself, "Alas, the gods have lured me on to my destruction. I deemed that the hero Deiphobus was by my side, but he is within the wall, and Minerva has inveigled me. Death is now indeed exceedingly near at hand, and there is no way out of it. For so Jove and his son Apollo, the far darter, have willed it, though heretofore they have been ever ready to protect me. My doom has come upon me. Let me not then die ingloriously, and without a struggle, but let me first do some great thing that shall be told among men hereafter." As he spoke, he drew the keen blade that hung so great and strong by his side, and gathering himself together besprang on Achilles like a soaring eagle which swoops down from the clouds onto some lamb or timid hare. Even so did Hector brandish his sword and spring upon Achilles. Achilles, mad with rage, darted towards him with his wondrous shield before his breast and his gleaming helmet, made with 4 layers of metal, nodding fiercely forward. The thick tresses of gold with which Vulcan had crested the helmet floated round it, and as the evening star that shines brighter than all others through the stillness of night, even such was the gleam of the spear which Achilles poised in his right hand, fraught with the death of noble Hector. He eyed his fair flesh over and over to see where he could best wound it, but all was protected by the goodly armor of which Hector had spoiled Patroclus after he had slain him, save only the throat, where the collarbones divide the neck from the shoulders, and this is a most deadly place. Here then did Achilles strike him as he was coming on towards him, and the point of his spear went right through the fleshy part of the neck, but it did not sever his windpipe so that he could still speak. Hector fell headlong, and Achilles vaunted over him, saying, Hector, you deemed that you should come off scatheless when you were spoiling Patroclus, and recked not of myself who was not with him. Fool that you were, for I, his comrade, mightier far than he, was still left behind him at the ships, and now I have laid you low. The Achaeans shall give him all due funeral rites, while dogs and vultures shall work their will upon yourself. Then Hector said, as the life ebbed out of him, I pray you by your life and knees, and by your parents, let not dogs devour me at the ships of the Achaeans, but accept the rich treasure of gold and bronze which my father and mother will offer you, and send my body home, that the Trojans and their wives may give me my dues of fire when I am dead. Achilles glared at him and answered, Dog, talk not to me neither of knees nor parents, would that I could be assured of being able to cut your flesh into pieces and eat it raw, for the ill you have done me, as I am that nothing shall save you from the dogs. It shall not be, though they bring 10 or 20-fold ransom and weigh it out for me on the spot, with promise of yet more hereafter. Though Priam, son of Dardanus, should bid them offer me your weight in gold, even so your mother shall never lay you out and make lament over the son she bore. But dogs and vultures shall eat you utterly up. Hector with his dying breath then said, I know you what you are, and was sure that I should not move you. For your heart is hard as iron. Look to it that I bring not heaven's anger upon you on the day when Paris and Phoebus Apollo, valiant though you be, shall slay you at the Scaean gates. When he had thus said, the shrouds of death enfolded him, whereon his soul went out of him and flew down to the house of Hades, lamenting its sad fate that it should enjoy youth and strength no longer. But Achilles said, speaking to the dead body, Die, for my part. I will accept my fate whensoever Jove and the other gods see fit to send it. As he spoke, he drew his spear from the body and set it on one side. Then he stripped the blood-stained armor from Hector's shoulders, while the other Achaeans came running up to view his wondrous strength and beauty, and no one came near him without giving him a fresh wound. Then would one turn to his neighbor and say, It is easier to handle Hector now than when he was flinging fire onto our ships. And as he spoke, he would thrust his spear into him anew. When Achilles had done spoiling Hector of his armor, he stood among the Argives and said, My friends, princes and counselors of the Argives, now that heaven has vouchsafed us to overcome this man, who has done us more hurt than all the others together, consider whether we should not attack the city in force, and discover in what mind the Trojans may be. We should thus learn whether they will desert their city now that Hector has fallen, or will still hold out even though he is no longer living. But why argue with myself in this way, while Patroclus is still lying at the ships unburied and unmourned? He whom I can never forget so long as I am alive, and my strength fails not. Though men forget their dead when once they are within the house of Hades, yet not even there will I forget the comrade whom I have lost. Now, therefore, Achaean youths, let us raise the song of victory and go back to the ships, taking this man along with us. For we have achieved a mighty triumph, and have slain noble Hector, to whom the Trojans prayed throughout their city as though he were a god. On this he treated the body of Hector with contumely. He pierced the sinews at the back of both his feet from heel to ankle, and passed thongs of oxhide through the slits he had made. Thus he made the body fast to his chariot, letting the head trail upon the ground. Then, when he had put the goodly armor on the chariot, and had himself mounted, he lashed his horses on, and they flew forward, nothing loth. The dust rose from Hector as he was being dragged along. His dark hair flew all abroad, and his head, once so comely, was laid low on earth. For Jove had now delivered him into the hands of his foes to do him outrage in his own land. Thus was the head of Hector being dishonoured in the dust. His mother tore her hair and flung her veil from her with a loud cry as she looked upon her son. His father made piteous moan, and throughout the city the people fell to weeping and wailing. It was as though the whole of frowning Ilias was being smirched with fire. Hardly could the people hold Priam back in his hot haste to rush without the gates of the city. He grovelled in the mire and besought them, calling each one of them by his name. "Let be, my friends," he cried, "and for all your sorrow suffer me to go single-handed to the ships of the Achaeans. Let me beseech this cruel and terrible man, if maybe he will respect the feeling of his fellow men and have compassion on my old age. His own father is even such another as myself, Peleus, who bred him and reared him to be the bane of us Trojans, and of myself more than of all others. Many a son of mine has he slain in the flower of his youth, and yet, grieve for these as I may, I do so for one, Hector, more than for them all, and the bitterness of my sorrow will bring me down to the house of Hades. Would that he had died in my arms, for so both his ill-starred mother who bore him and myself should have had the comfort of weeping and mourning over him." Thus did he speak with many tears, and all the people of the city joined in his lament. Hecuba then raised the cry of wailing among the Trojans. "Alas, my son," she cried, "what have I left to live for, now that you are no more? Night and day did I glory in you throughout the city, for you were a tower of strength to all in Troy, and both men and women alike hailed you as a god. So long as you lived, you were their pride, but now death and destruction have fallen upon you." Hector's wife had as yet heard nothing, for no one had come to tell her that her husband had remained without the gates. She was at her loom in an inner part of the house, weaving a double purple web, and embroidering it with many flowers. She told her maids to set a large tripod on the fire, so as to have a warm bath ready for Hector when he came out of battle. Poor woman! She knew not that he was now beyond the reach of baths, and that Minerva had laid him low by the hands of Achilles. She heard the cry coming as from the wall, and trembled in every limb. The shuttle fell from her hands, and again she spoke to her waiting women. "Two of you," she said, "come with me, that I may learn what it is that has befallen. I heard the voice of my husband's honoured mother. My own heart beats as though it would come into my mouth, and my limbs refuse to carry me. Some great misfortune for Priam's children must be at hand. May I never live to hear it. But I greatly fear that Achilles has cut off the retreat of brave Hector and has chased him onto the plain where he was single-handed. I fear he may have put an end to the reckless daring which possessed my husband, who would never remain with the body of his men, but would dash on far in front, foremost of them all in valor." Her heart beat fast, and as she spoke, she flew from the house like a maniac, with her waiting women following after. When she reached the battlements and the crowd of people, she stood looking out upon the wall, and saw Hector being borne away in front of the city, the horses dragging him without heed or care over the ground towards the ships of the Achaeans. Her eyes were then shrouded as with the darkness of night, and she fell fainting backwards. She tore the attiring from her head and flung it from her, the frontlet and net with its plaited band, and the veil which golden Venus had given her on the day when Hector took her with him from the house of Aetion, after having given countless gifts of wooing for her sake. Her husband's sisters and the wives of his brothers crowded round her and supported her. For she was fain to die in her distraction. When she again presently breathed and came to herself, she sobbed and made lament among the Trojans, saying, "Woe is me, O Hector! Woe indeed, that to share a common lot we were born, you at Troy in the house of Priam, and I at Thebes under the wooded mountain of Placus in the house of Ionor, who brought me up when I was a child. Ill-starred sire of an ill-starred daughter, would that he had never begotten me. You are now going into the house of Hades under the secret places of the earth, and you leave me a sorrowing widow in your house. The child, of whom you and I are the unhappy parents, is as yet a mere infant. Now that you are gone, O Hector, you can do nothing for him, nor he for you. Even though he escape the horrors of this woeful war with the Achaeans, yet shall his life henceforth be one of labour and sorrow, for others will seize his lands. The day that robs a child of his parents severs him from his own kind. His head is bowed, his cheeks are wet with tears, and he will go about destitute among the friends of his father, plucking one by the cloak and another by the shirt. Someone or other of these may so far pity him as to hold the cup for a moment towards him and let him moisten his lips, but he must not drink enough to wet the roof of his mouth. Then one whose parents are alive will drive him from the table with blows and angry words. "Out with you," he will say, "you have no father here," and the child will go crying back to his widowed mother. He, Astyanax, who erewhile would sit upon his father's knees, and have none but the daintiest and choicest morsels set before him. When he had played till he was tired and went to sleep, he would lie in a bed, in the arms of his nurse, on a soft couch, knowing neither want nor care, whereas now that he has lost his father, his lot will be full of hardship. He, whom the Trojans name Astyanax, because you, O Hector, were the only defence of their gates and battlements. The wriggling, writhing worms will now eat you at the ships, far from your parents, when the dogs have glutted themselves upon you. You will lie naked, although in your house you have fine and goodly raiment made by hands of women. This will I now burn. It is of no use to you, for you can never again wear it, and thus you will have respect shown you by the Trojans, both men and women." In such wise did she cry aloud amid her tears, and the women joined in her lament.